Welcome to the Craft and Biz of Acting, the place to go to learn what they didn't teach you in acting school. When you're looking for the next step in your acting career, we've got you covered. With your host, monologue expert, and founder of monologuestogo.com, Joyce Story.
Hello, fellow thespians. You are listening to The Craft and Biz of Acting. I'm your host, Joyce Story, and we're here to explore the nuts and bolts of auditioning and performing. It's a privilege to have today's guest with us. He's a seasoned actor who's truly done it all. Currently appearing in network on Broadway, Bill Timoney describes his career as eclectic, with work ranging from acting on Broadway to regional theaters, movies, TV shows, and commercials. He is known for his work on All My Children, 12 Monkeys, and Mission to Mars. A veteran voice actor, he's heard in hundreds of films, TV shows, and especially animated programs. He also directs recording sessions for dubbed versions of anime, adapts scripts for foreign language films and TV shows, and provides script coverage and assessment for industry clients. Bill's also worked as a stand-up comic and stage combat choreographer. He spent the year 2012 working as a line producer for a live 1-hour daily morning TV news show. In his own words, I've been around. He certainly has. You can learn more about Bill at imdb.com. If you'd like to contact him for coaching, you can find him on Facebook. The links are in our show notes. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thanks, Joyce. You should add that I'm also going to be doing the windows and emptying the trash after the completion of this interview.
You truly do it all.
Well, and I've had to.
Yeah.
I'm the sort of actor who got in the business very young because I was fascinated by the business. As a little kid, I was cinema obsessed. I call myself a cinemaniac. And when I got into theater as a teenager, then got on television when I got out of school, I had early tastes of some success. But the first time I then went out to Los Angeles and I had, my head handed to me and put back on the plane after about a year and a half of trying to figure out the town, I found myself back in New York. And I was tending bar at the Mexican joint that me and my soap opera cast member buddies used to drink at in our 20s. And now I'm about to turn 30, and I was tending bar at a Mex joint, and I was working third shift as a paralegal in a midtown law firm. I was doing the graveyard shift.
Oh my gosh.
And I decided, since I love the business so much, and I can't stop learning about the business, I love every aspect of film and TV and theater, that I would no longer have survival jobs that were disconnected from the industry, that I would always be involved somehow in the business. And that's when I started working in casting. I had a dabble with an talent agency. People I knew who were making very, very low budget horror films hired me to do their stunts. Some universities did Shakespeare productions, and I would go in and be the combat choreographer doing the sword fights. So I was always being creative in some aspect of the business. And at the same time, I was connecting with people who, so many people I've worked with, then went on to get deeper into the industry. Among my quote-unquote big credits, like working on Broadway, or when I was on the soap opera All My Children for many years, and even the recurring role I had on the Sci-Fi Channel TV show 12 Monkeys, none of those jobs did I book through an agent.
Really?
So much of my work throughout my career, and this is now my 40th year in the business, has come in a way other than an agent submitting me and getting the appointment. They've come through personal relationships I've had with people who are producers, directors, writers, casting people. And when I do, as you said, I do some coaching on the side. And one of my big messages to my coaching clients is the traditional step of getting an agent, waiting for the agent to call you with an audition appointment. That's lost time.
Right.
I don't wait for agents to call me. I don't wait to get an agent. I go around the side door. I go over the fence or around the wall. But I find ways to access opportunities to work other than waiting for my agent to submit me and to call me.
I am so happy to hear you say that. I really am.
Tell me why.
You have a similar story to my story. I always call myself a serial entrepreneur.
I like that.
I have always done that too. I've always just found my work through meeting people and through somehow the way your life takes you.
Right.
Work begets work, relationships open up opportunities. And I think that's good for actors to hear, especially actors starting out, because sometimes you can chase your entire career into looking for an agent. And maybe you don't get an agent.
Right.
So then what?
Which is what happened to me in my 20s.
Right.
Which is when, my big break was All My Children. The casting director, Joan D'Incheco, got me an audition there. And then they liked me and they had me do background work and bit part work, and they would audition me for another role. And then they would hire me to be the reader at some of their auditions.
Ooh, reading. That's a very good thing
It's a very
to do.
good. One of the guys in Network, his wife is an agent. She could not get him in for an audition for Network, but at the same time, the casting directors, Bernie Telsey's office, they called him in to be the reader. Now again, his own wife is his agent, and she's with a very good agency. She could not get an audition for him, yet the casting people brought him in to be the reader, and after several days of readings, the associate director said to him, I really like you. You should do this part.
Wow.
So he didn't book this job because he couldn't get an appointment to audition, but he got in the room. And that's a big thing. Get in the room. Look, I collect anecdotes. I collect showbiz stories, but not, what clever thing Tallulah Bankhead said. Everything I look for is how you became what you became, how you got in the door. Brian has a great one. But I love the one with Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford was a carpenter. He got out of the business. He was on an episode of The Partridge Family.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, he was.
That I did not know. I know his story, but I did not know that.
Yeah, well, you know what, the whole carpentry thing with Francis Ford Coppola, because it was Coppola's producer that Ford built bookshelves for his office. Coppola is now expanding his back office in his home, and his producer said, hey, I got the guy to do it, so he's doing it. Coppola likes him. He's making Apocalypse Now. He has Ford do a tiny role in Apocalypse Now. His buddy George Lucas is doing American Graffiti. He gives Ford a nice little role in there. And then Star Wars happens. And the studio is insisting on stars for Han Solo and Princess Leia. And George used Harrison as the reader. And after several weeks of the studio trying to get Al Pacino to play Han Solo. And
really?
Pacino, and this was after Godfather. And Pacino turned them down. And they tried other actors who had names. Ford, he was always there reading. And in a lot of the screen tests for the Princess Leia's, he'd be in there as Han Solo. And Lucas went, I just really want you. I really like you. So that's where being the reader can really pay off.
Yeah. But I like the fact that it can really pay off today, not just,
Not just in the 70s.
Not just in the 70s.
Here's my example from Network where,
Right.
it happened back in September to this actor.
Right.
He's in the show because he was the reader. Because if he went in as an actor, he never would have been seen.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, for our listeners, when you mentioned Brian has a great story, you're talking about...
Bryan Cranston, who's currently playing Howard Beale in Network. Brian and I go way back. My first job in the business was the soap opera All My Children. His first job in the business was the soap opera Loving, another ABC show.
I did Loving.
Did you really?
I did all of them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brian was fired after less than a year.
I did smaller roles,
Right.
but so I jumped around. So
I have a lot of friends of mine. They lived on day player here, U5 here, stand in here, even background here. I did 2-3 years worth of background while I was starting, and there were times in my life in the early 90s I went back to background. I did a background job this summer because I got a call out of the blue. Hadn't done background in years, but it was for The Deuce. And it was to be one of several perverts in these little booths. And I thought, that's going to be hilarious. I'm just going to be in. And sure enough, I got calls from people going, is that you coming out of the porno booth in Times Square?
I love it.
I had the day free and I went, I want to try this.
Oh my God, The Deuce. So I want to get back to Brian.
Okay.
You mentioned Brian, so
Sure.
let's loop back to there. But I want to get onto something that you just said.
Okay.
You, even now in your career, will do background work.
Yeah, I did a day over the summer. My wife and I had just moved back into the city. We were set up for jobs. Brian has a production company. And the previous summer, Brian had a production company doing a TV show for Amazon. It was filming out at Silver Cup called The Dangerous Book for Boys.
Right.
I had actually helped Brian develop that several years earlier. So he hired me to be the on-set acting coach for all the kids. And it was mostly kids in the show. And there were a couple of days when I booked a role on Orange is the New Black. So I wasn't able to be on the set of Dangerous Book that day because I was filming Orange is the New Black. And apparently my absence was noticed by the way the kids were doing their job or not doing their jobs. So Brian said, look, we're going to do a second season. You're going to be the coach again, the on-set coach. And it was a nice contract, nice wage. He said, but there are days when you're going to get other work. So let's job share it with Georgette, with my wife. So you guys will do the job together, which was a great thing. But we lived on the Jersey Shore and it was hard to get up for that. So we decided to move in the city and then cross our fingers that I might book a network. So we moved to the city. And a couple of weeks later, Amazon announced they were canceling Dangerous Book. There would not be a second season. So, I mean, I'd like to present that, yes, I did a day on the Deuce just for fun. No, I needed the gig. I mean, it was now in the city now we had, a much higher expenses.
Right.
Living down the Jersey Shore was nothing compared to living here.
Right.
So, when they called me, I didn't think twice about it.
But here's the reason I'm asking. There's always the great debate among actors. Do I do background work? Will I be labeled? Will I not be able to get other work because I'm only seen as that?
It's hilarious. And here's the answer. Here's why actors who think that need to release themselves from that. Because the answer is, who cares? As actors, we assume way more than is the reality. For example, in the 90s, I was very hot commercially. I was spokesman for Avis. I did all the Avis Rent-A-Car national commercials. I got Brian a job on one of my spots, actually.
Oh my gosh, you really did go way back.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
done
again,
a lot of things
83,
together.
although this was 94. But I was sitting with a very good commercial agent in town. And, I was booking a lot, helped in large part because of Avis. But I said to my agent, what's the percentage? So what are we talking about? I said, you send me out, and not only do I not book the job, I don't even get a call back. What's the number that you start to rethink? You start to wonder, maybe I was wrong about this guy. Maybe something's wrong. Maybe I'm not going to re-sign him. Bill, we do not think that way. Well, just indulge me. If I went on a cold streak, at what point would you start to wonder what's up with me? And he went, not even a call back? I said, not even a call back. He said, maybe 60, maybe 55. I said, do you realize that most actors, if they go 0 for 3 or 0 for 4, they start wondering if this is the universe telling them to go back to granddad's shop in Iowa and help him with the store? He went, Bill, no, we don't think that way. As far as labeling background performer, the people who book background and the people who work as bookers for principal work, they're not the same people.
They're not the same people.
And they don't ask each other. No principal cast director is going to, on, let's say, Blue Bloods. They don't call the casting director company that's doing the background and say, we've got a guy who we really like for this guest star role, but has he ever done background on the show? That's what people think happens, and that does not happen. People are too busy.
Right.
And you'll meet an actor who will say, that casting director, I can't go in there. 5 years ago, I had a terrible audition. And my response is, do you realize that casting director forgot all about you 10 minutes after you walked out of the door? And yet you're carrying for 5 years this, I was so bad. Who cares?
Right.
People are doing their business. The business moves so fast. And if we embrace that chaos, it helps us be better professionals rather than weighing ourselves down and holding ourselves back.
Right. And I've gotten work out of being on a set and meeting people, doing background work.
Sure.
I've gotten other work because I met those people.
Good for you.
I would never have gotten work on some of the soaps if I hadn't done some of the other soaps. I would never have gotten speaking lines on One Life to Live if I hadn't done background work first.
Yep. My first U5 on a soap was an upgrade. I was in the background and boom, suddenly dun. The woods are full of those stories. In fact, a friend of a friend, he was a principal on a commercial and he wasn't getting this copy right. And it stumble over in 10, 15 takes and he couldn't make it happen. And finally said, look, why don't you just go into the dressing room and just lie down? And he did. And he said, no, I got it. And he went back out and they were making up one of the background actors.
Wow. So you don't know. And I have lots of friends who've gotten upgraded on movies.
Sure. Yeah.
You get more work from being at work than you do sitting in your
Agreed.
apartment.
Johnny Phillips, who goes by Ethan Phillips, you would know him immediately. You go way back to Benson, the spinoff of Soap. He's a short guy with bald head and lots of energy. He was a speechwriter for that. He holds the unique distinction of playing 2 contract regular roles on 2 different Star Trek series and playing 2 different characters completely. He was Neelix on Star Trek Voyager, and then he was something else on Star Trek, whatever, Deep Space Nine or whatever. Very recognizable face. And we worked together on the Broadway show all the way. And he said, Billy, it's been really simple for me. Show up. He said, I've never, ever gotten a job on my couch watching television.
Good answer.
Yeah, he said, I've been in the lobby. I've gone to see a show and I'm in the lobby at intermission and somebody's chatting with me. And suddenly, he said, that's how Benson happened for him, was someone started chatting with him in a lobby. Do you know the Holly Hunter story? I'll give you the Holly Hunter story.
Give me the Holly Hunter
Holly Hunter
story.
came up from Arkansas, working hard, trying to make it as an actress here in the city. She did 2 things in upstate New York. Cortland Rep outside of Albany, did Member of the Wedding, and she did that. She then had the luck to be in on, like most actors of a certain generation, she got her start in horror films, slasher films. Tom Hanks, Michael J. Fox, Clint Eastwood, Revenge of the Creature, the sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon. So many big stars got their first camera time in the horror monster genre. So she booked a movie called The Burning, which is about a group of friends. Something happened to one of their friends, but the friend didn't die, and now he's all burned up, and he's going to come back and get everybody. And these 2 brothers who were downtown investment bankers wanted to get on the action of the Halloween, Friday the 13th slasher drive-in genre. So they got the guy who did the makeup for the kid at the end of Friday the 13th, Tom Savini, and they did all the gory makeup for The Burning. Willie Reale, who with his brother wrote Year of Frog and Toad. Willie Reale's in that. Holly Hunter's in it. These 2 brothers I told you about, the Weinsteins.
Oh my gosh.
Their first foray in the business was this stupid little horror flick, The Burning. Well, Holly Hunter gets her SAG card for The Burning.
Yes, I think I knew this actually.
It filmed up around where Cortland Rep is, so she may have got it booked as a local hire, I'm not sure. But she comes back to the city, and she's in a building, she gets in the elevator, and somebody closer to the buttons than her, and she says, 12th floor please, or whatever it was. And the other woman in the elevator went, where are you from? Well, I come from Arkansas. So do I. They start talking. It's Beth Henley. By the time they get off the elevator,
They're fast friends.
Beth has asked her to do a reading of a script she's written, the Miss Firecracker contest. And that's how she gets into that. That's how she gets into Crimes of the Heart someplace. And, that's how she gets the movie that makes her such a big deal, Raising Arizona. Why not you? It could happen to you right now, just when you walk out of the building.
On that happy note, we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsor. But we are talking to Bill Timoney, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about voiceover.
Looking for the perfect monologue that will nail your next audition? Need something right away? Need a fresh perspective? Monologues2go.com is your one-stop shop for audition material. We understand actors' needs because we've been in your shoes. We know the importance of finding the perfect piece that fits like it was made for you. Pick your favorite monologues and download them instantly. It's that easy. Think of us like a takeout menu, only a whole lot more fun. We're fresh, fast, hot, and delivered to you in seconds. Monologues2go.com. Original monologues that work.
And we are back with Bill Timoney, who has wonderful stories about the business. Bill, you have done so many things that I could talk to you for hours and hours and not get to everything on your resume, which is just so incredible and so inspiring.
The busiest actor you've never heard of.
But I love the busiest actors you've never heard of, because that is one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast.
Right.
So that actors know that it's not just that tiny little 1% that
Sure.
can work in this business and
Sure.
make a living in this business and love this business.
Very quickly, I'll give you one of my favorites. One of my 2 heroes in the business is a guy named William Alland, A-L-L-A-N-D. William Alland was part of Orson Welles' Mercury Theater Company, but he was ensemble, bit part here, ASM there, prop master there. Orson goes to make his first film, Citizen Kane. William Alland is arguably the star of it. William Alland plays the reporter who is trying to find out the secret of Rosebud. Now, the way it's filmed, you never quite see his face. You never quite hear his name. It's a very large role. But he's completely anonymous, which is what Welles wanted, because, really, the star of the film is the subject, Kane, by Orson Welles. So Allen gets to L.A. with Welles to make Citizen Kane, kind of likes it there. He starts working on the other side, because he was known as kind of a guy who can do other things, and he was not going to become a big star as an actor. So after the war he does World War II, and when he comes back, he remembers a story that he heard from somebody on us during the war. And Universal Pictures, they're expanding their units. They used to do a lot of monsters, now they're going to do sci-fi. And Allen went in with a pitch, and because he was associated with Welles and Citizen Kane, they took the meeting, they took the pitch, and they ended up hiring him and giving him a unit as a producer. And William Allen, as a producer, made some of the most famous sci-fi films of the 1950s. But that little story a friend of his had told him?
Right.
It was about a race of like giant fishmen who lived up in the Amazon. And Alan wrote out treatment for the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh my goodness.
So William Allen's unit made This Island Earth, the Deadly Mantis. They came from outer space, which is one of the titles referenced in Rocky Horror Show.
Right.
William Allen went from being this interesting actor with a lot of areas where he could do stuff and keep kind of a career going. And then he made a bunch of Westerns too. So he was a very prolific producer, all coming from being sort of a featured member of the Mercury Theater.
You just never know.
You never know.
You just never know.
Yeah.
Shifting gears, tell me about the world of voiceover. What does it take to be a voiceover artist?
It all depends on what aspect of voice acting. When I was growing up, you heard voiceover sounded like it was an announcer on a commercial.
Right.
That's right, kids. Now you can own another whammo, whammo, or something like that. I do voice acting. I do some narration. Every now and then I book a narration gig. I loved a gig I had on the movie Molly, An American Girl, on the home front. Molly and her friends go to the Bijou on Saturdays, and I'm the newsreel narrator because her dad's in World War II, and that's how she gets news of the war. And so I narrated all the newsreels, and that was a cool gig. A lot of what I do is what's called Group ADR, which is a SAG union day player contract. So I get paid as if I were a day player on the film. And I put in voices. Let's say there's a party scene or there's a restaurant scene. Well, when they film it, as you know, only the two principals are talking. Everybody in the background who's talking, they're just moving their lips. Well, an improv team of me and 5 or 6 other people go in and we give everybody conversations.
Oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing
It is
ever.
the coolest thing. It is the coolest thing. And I knew about it because as a kid, I was addicted to the Sean Connery James Bond films.
Yes.
And except for Sean Connery.
So was I.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, then we can talk
All
for hours.
of them. FYI, we
Right.
have a place on the beach in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's called 007.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
But almost everybody you see in the Sean Connery Bonds, other than Moneypenny, MQ, and Bond, it's not their voice.
Really?
I'll give you one. The mind-blowing one. Dr. No, right? Ursula Andress,
Yes.
not her voice.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, the voice actress who revoiced Ursula Andress
Yes.
revoiced almost the entire female cast, including Sylvia Trench in the beginning.
Yeah.
Who, she's the one who says Bond, James Bond. The same voice actress does Sylvia Trench and Honey Rider.
Oh my gosh.
Eunice Gayson and
Wow.
and Ursula. Goldfinger.
Yeah.
That's not his voice.
That's not his
Gert
voice.
Frobe. No, Mr.
Oh my
Bond.
God.
I want you to die. That's not his
That's
voice.
not his voice. It's a great voice.
An anonymous British character actor named Michael Collins is the voice of Gert Frobe in Goldfinger. So I know this.
So you
And
you
I
do
found
this.
my way in
How did you find your way in?
because I had a friend who was in, and a guy got the job coordinating the group voices for Ron Howard's Far and Away. And Ron Howard said, I don't want New York actors who can do Irish accents. I want real Irish actors living in New York. And my friend was kind enough to tell the guy who didn't know anything about Irish actors. She lied and said, oh, I have a friend, Bill, who's an Irish actor living
So
in New
you
York.
walked in with a brogue.
I was doing a cabaret act in Hawaii. And she called me and said, you get a phone call from this guy. I said, for the next 48 hours, every time the phone rings, you answer it with an Irish accent.
Oh my gosh, you're going to be my best friend for life.
And that's
I
how
love
I
this
got
story.
on. And at the end of the session, when Ron Howard wasn't around anymore, I went up to the sound editor and I came forward and said, I'm not really Irish. And he said, well, you were really good in this. I'm doing a film tomorrow and I want you on my film tomorrow. And that's how it just snowballed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's really good stuff. Frank Oz, I worked with Frank Oz a bunch of times. Yeah, I love working for Frank Oz.
Wow. So you just go into a studio. Is it like a day? Is it 2 days? Is it 5 days?
Well,
what would you normally do?
I know a guy who did Titanic, and they did 11 days on Titanic. So
Oh,
11
wow.
day player contracts. So when you're looking to make enough money in Screen Actors Guild to get your insurance, working group ADR, again, it's the same as if you were on camera. It's a day player wage.
And is it a kind of a small little merry band of warriors that goes from film to film? You see a lot of the same
Great
people?
question. Because it's an odd little skill,
Niche.
almost a niche. Once the editors and the ADR talent coordinators are comfortable with you, then they're going to call you back again. Now in LA, everybody knows about it, and there's tons of teams, and it's incredibly competitive. New York, most actors don't even know that it's an actual skill that could fall under your skill set. But there's not as much work here. A couple days a month would be a good month. LA, every day there's stuff going on. But you got to kill or at least harm a relative in order to get the gig.
Well, that's the other thing with voiceover or voice acting. You can be any age. You don't age out.
Yeah, you do not age out, unlike you can put on weight. You don't have to shave. Yeah.
Right. You can do it in your jammies and everybody's
Right.
happy.
Right. And there's some people who, when you do foreign language cartoons like I do, that's now dubbing. You're not looping in additional dialogue. You're actually, square peg in a round hole. And you've got to be really good with lip flap, syncing up lip flap. But the great thing about doing animation is you don't have to think about the character. It's drawn that way. Should I say this line soft or loud? No, you're matching what the image already is. So you can work very, very fast.
I suddenly had an image of Jessica Rabbit because she has that line about, I'm drawn that way.
Yeah. Well, now in that case, the actress Betsy Brantley, who did the body work for that. And you can see Betsy Brantley, and let's see, there's a Fred Zinnemann film with Sean Connery called 5 Days, One Summer. Betsy Brantley's the female lead. Betsy Brantley was sort of like the body, almost like rotoscoping. They filmed scenes with her. When Bob Hoskins was talking, that's Betsy Brantley, and then they drew Jessica Rabbit on top of her. But Betsy certainly had to give that kind of va-va-voom performance in order for Hoskins to have the eye line and all that.
Right.
There's so many more jobs than you realize when you get into this business. I did a job on The Irishman, the De Niro thing for Scorsese, where my entire job was interrogating De Niro in a courtroom scene. I was the prosecutor and he's the defendant. There was nothing in the script except his speech. And it was my job for 3.5 hours to improvise the cross-examination to get him to a place where he blurted this out. I wasn't given any lines.
Oh, wow.
Luckily, I knew to do my research. So every take, I gave him a whole different set of questions. I kept him on his toes. I kept him off balance. And 3.5 hours later, I went, wow, this is the greatest day I've ever had on a film set. Now, the way they cut it, you probably won't see me at all. You'll probably just get him doing the outburst. But wow, we worked our butts off.
What a great experience, though.
One of my 3 favorite all-time days in front of a camera was improvising with De Niro and Scorsese. And them coming to me saying, Bill, could you get Bob to say, sure, Marty. Bob, you want me to say it first so you parrot me, or do you want me to drag it out of you? Oh, okay. I'll tell you what, Billy, let's do this one take where you drag it out of me. But then, so to be creating on that level with those 3 guys, I really would have been okay if when I stepped off that set, if I'd been struck by lightning and killed, I would have died happy.
I'm very happy. We are starting to run out of time, which is so sad to me. So I want to get back to Bryan Cranston and your story about him that we were going to speak about in the first half.
Bryan came out with a memoir 2 years ago called A Life in Parts. And he asked for my help. He asked for my advice on a couple of things because, in a way, I know his career better than he does.
Huh.
He'll go, now his dad was in the business on the periphery. He said, my dad wrote that stupid drive-in horror picture, Beast with 5 Fingers. No, he didn't, Bryan. That was a Peter Lorre film from the 1940s. Your dad wrote The Crawling Hand. So I can do that. So there's this anecdote about the crawling hand, But when he was constructing the book, it was all done from the point of view that there were going to be young actors, there are going to be career actors, there are going to be people who are trying to re-enter the business, reading this. So he wanted to write it from the point of view of providing insight and inspiration, which is why I collect all my showbiz anecdotes. I'm always what I call the double I. I'm always looking for insight and inspiration, like the William Allen story. That provided me with insight and inspiration. And Bryan's book provides plenty of that. Those things keep me going. And quite literally, I got a million of them. Finding the insight and inspiration in showbiz stories.
But they do keep you going because if they can do it, why can't we do it?
Yeah, why not you?
Yeah.
Why not? There's so many people lined up to deny you what you want and to tell you can't do it. Why should you be one of those people? You should be the person that says, yeah, why not me?
I like that. Why not me?
My favorite background job? Not mine. Goodbye Columbus made a star out of Ally McGraw because the next film she got was Love Story. It's a Philip Roth novel. Richard Benjamin is the schnooky guy at a country club, and he's really, it's kind of a, smutty book at the time. But he's staring at this beautiful girl at the pool all summer, and he finally meets her and has a relationship with her. Jack Klugman is in the film. And one of the extras sitting in the chaise lounges around the pool is Bette Midler.
Oh my gosh. Everybody starts somewhere, right?
Yeah. And knowing that helps enormously.
It does.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're here at the Belasco Theater through April 28th.
Fantastic. We will check you out.
Excellent.
And everybody listening should check it out. Bill Timoney, I thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you, Joyce. This was delightful.
An absolute delight. And let's do it again sometime.
Okay. I will come back whenever you want.
All right. You have been listening to The Craft and Biz of Acting. I'm Joyce Story. Until next time, break a leg.
Thanks for tuning in to the Craft and Biz of Acting. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, and while you're at it, please leave us a rating and a review and share our show with your friends. We're building a supportive and educational community, and we want you to be a part of it. Tune in every week for more helpful insights and tools for honing your craft and booking your next gig. Until next time, break a leg.